In this lesson, we'll be kicking off the section by setting up a new project folder for the chat application. We'll also take our first steps towards getting some code inside of there, setting up a basic web server using Express, which we'll be building off of throughout this project. So for the moment, what we can do is close down the Task Manager directory, and I can close all open files, and we'll be creating a new directory in the Node course folder. I'll create the new folder, and I can call it something like Chat App. Now, this is the project we'll be working out of throughout this section, and down below in the terminal, we're going to navigate into this project folder. So down here in the terminal, Control-C to shut down the test suite for the Task Manager, cd ... to get out of that directory, and once we're out of that directory, I'll use cd Chat App to navigate into the new project folder. I'll then use clear just to clear the terminal output, and now we're starting from a nice clean slate. Over in the browser, we can also go ahead and close some of the tabs we're no longer going to be using. I have this tab for the Task Manager repository. I have some Jest documentation and the extra tests you can create. We're not going to need any of those. What we're going to do is start from scratch, setting up, as I mentioned, a basic Express web server. Now from here, let's go ahead and create a new directory in the Chat App folder. We're going to create the source directory for our Node.js scripts, and in that source directory for now, we're going to create just a single file, index.js. Now, inside of here, it's going to be up to you to complete the following challenge. The big picture goal here is to create an Express server that serves up some HTML, and this is something we've already done before, so I'm going to have you do it this time as a challenge. So we covered this previously in the course. Right here, you're going to do it once again. So step number 1, you'll be initializing this Chat App project to use NPM, and you'll be installing Express. Next up, in this file, you're actually going to create the Express server. What you want to do is create a server that serves up the public directory. Now, currently, no public directory exists in Chat App. You're going to go ahead and fix that by creating it. Then the server will start up and listen on port 3000. Now, in that public folder, you're going to create an HTML file called index.html, and then you'll render the text Chat App to the screen. And finally, you'll test your work, start the new server, and then view localhost 3000 in the browser and ensure that you see your little message showing up. So take some time to knock this out, and feel free to use any previous lesson in the course or any of the code you already created as guidance for what you need to do. All right, pause the video. When you're done, come back and click play. All right, how'd that go? Let's kick things off by initializing NPM and installing Express. Now, if you remember, we can initialize NPM in a project by running npm init from the project root. We don't have to provide any other arguments, and it walks us through that little questionnaire. We can use the default value for everything, and once we're done, we simply confirm the contents of the package.json file, and it's created for us. Now that we have package.json in place, we can move on to the second part of step 1, which is to install Express. We'll do that from the terminal down below. npm I, that is Express at version 4.16.4. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and install that version. And once we have it installed, we'll actually set up the new Express server right here in this file. Now, I'm going to add all of the code for the file just above the challenge comments, as I'll be removing those challenge comments shortly. And to kick off step 2, what you needed to do was load Express in. So right here, const express equals, we'll use require to load in the library. Then down below, we can actually create our new Express application and get it configured and up and running. Right here, a new constant app. We will get the value by calling the Express function to generate a new application. Then we're going to go ahead and figure out how we can get the port as well as the public directory path. So right here, let's start with port. This will come from process.env.port. Otherwise, we'll fall back to the default value 3000, which is what we'll be using locally on our machine. Now, maybe you didn't create a variable that checked for this. If you didn't, that's okay, but I would suggest doing a bit of refactoring to also check for that port environment variable. Now, I also wanted you to serve up the public directory, which means we need to get the path to that folder like we had done before in the web server project. That means working with the node path module. So right here, const path equals. I'll go ahead and use require to load in path, and remember, this is a core node module, so there's no need to install it. Down below, we can simply use it. Right here, const public directory path, let's go ahead and spell things correctly, equals, and what we're going to do is use path.join like we had done earlier in the web server project. We join together __dir name, which is the current directory for this file, and we joined that with the following, ... to get out of the source folder and /public. Now, the public folder is not something that exists, but we'll focus on fixing that in just a few moments. So now we have everything we need to actually configure the server. First up, we're going to use the Express static middleware to serve up what's ever at and in this directory. Right here, that'll be app.use. Then we use express.static like we had done earlier in the class, and we provide the path to the folder. That is the public directory path. Now, the last thing to do is to actually use app.listen to start the server up. I'm going to provide the port I want to listen on as that first argument, and optionally, I could choose to provide a callback function. You did not need to do this, but if you did, that's great as well. Right here, console.log. And I'll use the ES6 template string to print something like server is up on port, followed by that port value right here, referencing it, and I'll put an exclamation mark at the end. So now we have our Express server up and running, and it's serving up the contents of that public folder. That brings us to step 3, actually creating an HTML file we can serve up. So let's go ahead and do just that. In the chat app folder, you needed to make the public directory, and in the public directory, you needed to create a single file, index.html. Now we'll be creating plenty of other files in the public directory throughout this project, but for now, just this one is gonna get the job done. Now there was no need for anything specific or complex inside of here. We're going to create a very bare bones document, starting off with our doc type, which will be HTML. Then we'll set up HTML. Inside of there, we'll set up the head for our document. And then down below, we'll also take a moment to set up the body. And in the body, we can put the stuff we want to render to the browser. And for the moment, the text chat app is all we want to show. We're not even using any sort of header tag. We're just typing the text right inside. Now, later on, we'll add other things to configure this document. But for now, this is a great start. And with this in place, we're now ready to test our work. So we completed step 3. We created that file, and we hopefully will render the correct message to the screen. Now we can test our work. So from the terminal down below, what I'm going to do is use clear to clear the terminal output, and I will use node source /index.js to start the server up. And right here, it says it's up and running on port 3000. So over in the browser, I'll go to localhost on port 3000 to hopefully view our page. And right here, what do we see? We see our chat app message. So with this in place, we now have a basic Express server, which we can continue to build off of as we build out the chat application. For the moment, what I'm going to do is remove those challenge comments and save the file. And down below, we'll be moving on to our second challenge for the lesson. We'll wrap up the lesson with this quick one where you're going to need to set up some scripts in package.json. The first thing you're going to do is create a start script which starts up the application using Node, much like we had just done from the terminal down below. Then you're going to install NodeMon as a development dependency. You'll be creating a second script, a dev script, which starts up the application with NodeMon, which we'll be using as we build the app out locally. Then number 4, you're going to run both scripts to test your work. So run them both and view things in the browser, making sure they're working as expected. Take some time to knock that out, test your work, and when you're done, come back and click play. Let's go ahead and get to it. Over in package.json, we'll be setting up both of these scripts. Now, I didn't tell you what to do with the test script, so maybe you left it in place or maybe you removed it. Either way would be perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and remove it. And then we'll set up those two scripts. I'm going to set up start to do the following. It'll be using Node to run index.js in the source directory. And we'll also go ahead and set up the dev script, even though we haven't installed NodeMon just yet. And right here, we'll use NodeMon to run that exact same file, index.js in the source directory. Now down below in the terminal, we can actually install NodeMon as a development dependency. I need to use Control-C to shut things down, followed by npm I or install. We're installing NodeMon at 1.18.7. And then we'll go ahead and use save dev to save that as a development dependency, because it's something we're only ever going to need when we're running the application locally on our machines. Now, once this is installed, the last thing we'll need to do is to test our work. So I'll actually run both scripts and make sure both are correctly serving up the little chat app HTML file. Down here, it has installed correctly, and I'm seeing my changes in package.json. So what I'm going to do is remove the challenge comments. I'll be saving index.js, and I'll run both of those scripts. npm run start to test out that start script. It did indeed start, and if I refresh localhost 3000, I can still see my application. And next up, we'll go ahead and run, after using Control-C, npm run dev to start it up using that development script. Right here, I can see that I have started the application using NodeMon, and it should be up on port 3000. Over in the browser, for one final time, I'll give things a quick refresh, and I am able to view the HTML page, which is fantastic. So now that we have this in place, we have a great starting point for the chat application. In the next lesson, we're actually going to start to explore real-time data transfer with Node.js. I'm super excited to get to that, so let's go ahead and jump right in to the next lesson.